Oh, let's go, baby. It's Rothenberg Untucked, episode 3. It's the NBA postseason episode. We're going to do all the things we do. We're going to get into story time with Rothenberg. By the way, I got to be honest with you. At home, I get into a lot of trouble with story time with Rothenberg. I'm told I'm telling you too much information. I don't care. I'm a fount of information. So story time with Rothenberg, Stump Rothenberg, the Knicks, the Nets, all the NBA postseason, and it starts right now on Rothenberg Untucked. So let's begin with the NBA postseason. And let's start out with the Knicks. Now, the Knicks, and they have had such a dysfunctional franchise for such a long time, it pains me. This is how long the Knicks have been bad for. So long that I've become apathetic to it. And I think you have as well. You watch the Knicks and it's like, if they lose, they lose. I don't even care at this point. It's so painful. And I had a caller to my radio show called and said, well, you know, Thibodeau is the first coach that they hired that had any chance of succeeding. They had Larry Brown. They had Larry Brown as head coach. Larry Brown has turned around any team he's ever gone to. He goes to Kansas. They win a national championship. He goes to the Clippers. This is before Steve Ballmer owns the Clippers. And they're 500. They're making the postseason. They had Lenny Wilkins. Lenny Wilkins, NBA Hall of Famer. Larry Brown, like I mentioned, right? I mean, Mike D'Antoni, who's running gun with Phoenix, they can't lose a game out there. So don't give me this nonsense about, well, this is the first time in Tom Thibodeau the Knicks have had a legitimate head coach. This is the first time in Tom Thibodeau that you actually felt like this organization is getting so much out of the pieces that they have. Think about that for a second. Think about what the Knicks have that's producing. Now, the coaches vote on Coach of the Year, and Monty Williams gets the nod over Tom Thibodeau. And I know a lot of people think that Monty Williams is deserving, and I'm not going to freak out. I think he's deserving. But for a moment, look at who the Knicks play day in and day out. Their starting shooting guard is Reggie Bullock. Reggie Bullock is a journeyman player. And then Alec Burks misses time, and you're like, oh, we really need Alec Burks to get back into the lineup. Derrick Rose was left for dead. You could have asked half the people who follow the NBA at the start of the season, what team is Derrick Rose even on? And they'd have absolutely no idea. The answer, by the way, was Detroit. So he gets traded to the Knicks. And now Derrick Rose, you could argue, is better with the Knicks this time than he was last time. But Taj Gibson, anybody could have had Taj Gibson. Nobody wanted him. The Knicks bring him in. Look at what he's done. Mitchell Robinson, he's been hurt for the bulk of the season. R.J. Barrett, year one, let's be fair. We all thought year one, R.J. Barrett was a massive disappointment. And there was a ton of conversation. Oh, John Morant is so much better. And Zion Williamson is so much better. You know what? They might be better at this point. I don't think you could sit here and tell me they're so much better players. I can't think that at all. Right now, R.J. Barrett is playing at that level. And Julius Randle. And here's a take for you. All right, so sit back and relax for a second. Julius Randle is what the Knicks fans always desperately hoped Carmelo Anthony would be. He comes here, and you're like, this is the savior, this is the difference. And let's be fair, Carmelo Anthony had a much more talented team to play with, and he never got it done. The best they did was into the second round of the postseason, the 54-win year, last time they made the postseason. But Julius Randle, who we all wanted to absolutely run out of town after last year. Remember, he's the black hole. The ball goes down to him in the post. You never see it again. He's a guy that's all about statistics. Look at him now. Listen, you're telling me he's not a second-team All-NBA player? So what is the common theme with Alec Burks playing at this level? What is the common theme with Reggie Bullock? The common theme with Elfrid Payton, who, by the way, I could leave at home. I'm not a big fan of Elfrid Payton. But what is the common theme with all of them? It's the coach. It's the coach. Analyze it for a moment, people. This coach has done as good a job you have seen coaching in any sport, NHL, NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, outside of Tony La Russa, that goes without saying, because he has a real mastery of the rules at this point. But let's be fair. Tom Thibodeau is the best coach, and I'm going to take it one step further. Tom Thibodeau, right now, with the talent level that he has, or lack thereof, is the best coach in sports at the moment. Look at it again. Look at how the talent on this team. It's non-existent. This team won 41 games. Vegas is never wrong. You look at what Las Vegas brings to the table. If they give you an over-under of 6.5, a team wins 7. How many times do you bet on a game and the number is 3 or 3.5 and it comes down to 4 and you're like, God, Vegas is always right. Vegas had the Knicks at 22 wins this season. 22. and they won 41 games? What more do you need to know? Tom Thibodeau is the reason. And this has been a dysfunctional franchise for 20 years. They had a blip, right? They had the Mike Woodson 54 wins, and you thought to yourself, okay, it's all different. It was never different. It was a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. And yes, they wound up with a great season. And after that, it vanished. It came back, your common theme. Your common theme, Tom Thibodeau, is your common theme. So now I have Knicks fans telling me all over the place, we're back. We're going to win a series. We could beat Philadelphia. Can we please, please, please settle down? The Knicks have already won this year. The Knicks can go out there and get swept by Atlanta. The Knicks can go out there and lose 4-0 and get run out of the gym. And yeah, you'd be mildly disappointed, but live in the moment for a second, will you? Look at what this organization has now turned itself into. You talk to any expert, Woj, Zach Lowe, any of them, and they will sit here and tell you that if you're a disgruntled, because that's what you are, if you don't like where you are, the word that needs to be used is disgruntled. Right now, if you're a disgruntled player around the NBA, you're telling me the Knicks is not a very attractive option at the moment in the offseason? You know what? They have a terrific coach. They have a lot of money under the cap. They have real pieces that they can trade in return for a big-time player. And you know what Madison Square Garden and New York City have to offer. So they have gone from dysfunctional. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving are laughing. We go to the Knicks. Who would ever want to go to the Knicks? LeBron James, right? He's having his announcement 20 miles away from the Garden, and he's taking his talents to South Beach. So go to the Knicks? No one ever wanted to go to the Knicks. Look at what Tom Thibodeau has done. He has made, and you know what? Worldwide Wes and Leon Rose and all of them. All of those guys deserve medals, monuments down in New York City. They've done a phenomenal job. And it all starts with Tom Thibodeau, who's getting the most out of any team that I can remember in a very long time. So yes, you're going to get crazy. The Knicks play the Hawks, and it's a best of 7, and maybe they'll win that series. But try to keep it in perspective just a little bit. This is the very beginning stages of what should be an unbelievable run for this organization. The Rangers were supposed to be the team, right? Madison Square Garden, it's the Rangers. It's John Davidson. It's Jeff Gordon. It's David Quinn. The Rangers are the team. Look at the young talent. First-round pick, second-round pick, right? First overall, Capo Caco. They have all this high-priced talent. Zabinajad and Panarin, and that's the team. They sent out a letter and said, be patient. And the Knicks didn't send out a letter. The Knicks didn't want you to be patient. All you wanted as a fan of the Knicks is just go out there and give us everything you have. And it's the first time that you felt like that in a very, very long time with this organization. So yes, if they lose to the Hawks and you want to be upset, be upset. All right? You want to win that series, of course. And you look back at Kristaps Porzingis and what a disaster that was. And Phil Jackson. And Phil Jackson is the anti-Tom Thibodeau at this point. Phil Jackson, and I know this firsthand, Phil Jackson went to watch workouts of players entering the draft and fell asleep. He sat there and he fell asleep. So you roll the dice, and for the first time in God knows how long, it's finally coming up. 7s. The Knicks and the Hawks. So maybe they'll win that series, but I think you've seen something much bigger. I think you've seen something much, much bigger this year from Thibodeau and this organization. Now, as far as this series against Atlanta is concerned for the Knicks, how do they go about winning it? Well, listen, this is not an easy series, and anybody that tells you differently is making a tremendous mistake. And I saw on ESPN.com, they pulled 16 different people and asked their prediction of this series. 14 of the 16 chose the Knicks in this series. So think about this for a second. 14 of the 16 actually chose the underdog. That kind of thing, I don't know if it's me and my neuroses or whatever, always makes me nervous. But I will say this. If you're the Knicks, there's 2 things you need to win this series. And I'm not breaking the atom here, people. I'm giving you obvious analysis. Trae Young. And I think you have to play him physical, and I think you need to make him play on both ends of the court. You want to run him ragged, and you want to play him physical, and you want Frank Ntilikina to guard him a little bit, and you want Peyton to guard him, and you want everyone to be up in his face, up in his grill. And you know what? Let the officials make the calls. Let the officials actually determine this series, because I have a feeling they're going to let the Knicks play, and I would be up in his grill from the jump in Game 1. Number 2, is off the glass. But see, here's the thing. Atlanta's good. Clint Capella is as good a rebounder as there is. So you're going to need Taj Gibson. You're going to need Nerlens Noel to really bring their game. And the Hawks have guys you're like, oh, I forgot that guy was there, right? That's what they are. Danilo Gallinari, right? Lou Williams, John Collins. They're a talented team. So I think the Knicks can win this series, but this really is a flip of the coin. You have to play physical. You have to win on the glass. I think it's very important for the Knicks to hold home court early on in this series as well. Let's take a little step away from basketball and get into story time with Rothenberg. Oh, this is a story for the ages. You ready to go here? Let's go. You've heard me tell you before that football Sundays, in actuality, they're mini holidays. You should not be scheduling weddings, funerals, and I stand by that. If you pass away on a Friday or a Thursday, put the funeral on a Monday. It doesn't need to be on the Sunday. But let's get into story time and how I affected friendships and weddings and all sorts of stuff with my lunacy when it comes to NFL fandom. So let me go in the Wayback Machine. I think this is about, 15 years ago. And one of my wife's best friends is on the verge of getting married, maybe 13 years ago, 15 years ago, in that time frame. We can actually look it up. You could look it up on your own if I gave you a little assignment. So she's getting married. She gets engaged. And I'm very friendly with this girl. And I send her an email. I said, this is great. Congratulations. So thrilled for you. FYI, don't get married on a football Sunday, because if you do, I'm probably not going to go. And she responds, oh, that's so funny. You're so funny. What a great guy. You're so funny, all that kind of stuff. I said, well, in actuality, I'm not kidding here. If you get married on a football Sunday, I'm not going to be there. So she engaged, plans the wedding. I'm going to ask you, when does she get married? Yeah, on a football Sunday. So football Sunday planned. I respond. I say, I can't make it on a football Sunday. And she says, yes, but the Giants are on a bye. I said, listen, I don't care if the Giants are on a bye. I'm not giving up a football Sunday for your wedding. So my wife is telling me, just tell her you have to work. Tell her you can't go because of work. No, I will not compromise my ideals for this, okay? I am not going to tell you something that's not true. So I tell this girl, I can't go because it's on a football Sunday and it's fundamentally rude. And she thinks it's a joke up until she realizes I'm not going. We respond, on the response card, Sherry will be there. Sans Dave. So there you have it. God from above says, how dare you mess with a football Sunday? You get the biggest snowstorm in the Northeast history. I don't ever remember this happening. I think there's like 2 feet of snow, okay? The Ravens game was supposed to go off at 1 o'clock. They had to move it to 4 o'clock just so they could move all the snow at Baltimore's home field. So half of the people, including my wife, could not make it to the wedding because of the amount of snow. So, as you can tell, I'm winning here. But it gets better. So we send her, because I feel badly. I couldn't go football Sunday, and I've made that known. A very generous present. A really, really generous check. Weeks later, get the mail, open it up, look at the thank you note. Dear Sherry, thank you so much for the generous gift. She didn't even make mention of me. I've seen her maybe 2 or 3 times in the last 15 years. We barely talk. And there you have it. Don't mess with a football Sunday, especially mine. And that's story time with Rothenberg. All right, now, let's turn our attention to the Brooklyn Nets. And, oh, my God, there's so much talent on this team. I mean, really, aside from the big three, I mean, when you look at Jeff Green and you just look, they have Joe Harris. Joe Harris might have been the best player on the Nets last year. And now all of a sudden, he's like, oh, yeah, that's right, Joe Harris is on this club. But here's my take. They're unlikable. And I stand by it. They're going to beat the Celtics. They're going to beat Milwaukee. All of a sudden, there's this outcry of, look out, Milwaukee's this tough team, and they're different. Drew Holiday makes them so different. Yeah, okay. If I had to pick James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant against Giannis or Drew Holiday, no, it's not even a question. We know how good. We know how good Brooklyn is. They're going to go to the NBA Finals. Nothing stands in their way. Philadelphia, I got to worry about Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons can't shoot any further than I can shoot the basketball. Ben Simmons he's a horrendous offensive player. It's a shame, actually. Quickly, let me diverge for a moment. It's almost an embarrassment, isn't it? I mean, if you came into the NBA and you could do it, you were a great defensive player, and he's a great defensive player, and you back to the basket, you were brilliant, and you were an elite passer, and you had everything, and you couldn't shoot. Wouldn't you figure that within a couple of years, you would just shoot the ball so many times that you would be able to put the ball in the basket from 18 feet away? He can't shoot. It is mind-numbing that the guy can't put the ball in the basket. But I digress. Let's get back to the Nets. Here's my take on the Nets. I'm sorry. I'm going to say it. I don't care. It's Rothenberg Untucked. I have to say stuff like this. They're unlikable. This team is unlikable. Kevin Durant is, he's so quiet and he's got burner accounts. I need to deal with a guy that has burner accounts and says nasty stuff about other people behind their back. And I think that Kyrie Irving is a really bright guy. I think he's an intelligent guy. I think that half the time he opens up his mouth, he sounds like an absolute fool. And he's disrespectful. I don't need you. I mean, imagine that. You don't need anybody. But you know what? We're the ones, the media, the fans, television. How do you think you get paid if you're Kyrie Irving? You have to come out and say there's things a lot bigger than basketball happening in the world. Like we don't know that there's famine across the world. We don't know that there's war going on. But that's not you. Yeah, if you want to take that as a cause, take it as a cause. Raise money. Bring social awareness to these kind of things. But for you to sit there and tell us on the eve of the postseason that there's things that are much bigger than basketball for you, well, you know what? Maybe basketball is not for you. Now, you have your entire platform. Why do you have your entire platform? I think we know. You have your entire platform, let's be fair, because you're a great basketball player. So take that platform, answer the questions the media asks you, and then on the flip side, talk about things happening in Israel. Talk about things that are happening, Palestinian issues. Talk about police issues. Talk about, racial issues. Talk about it. People want to hear because of who you are, but people also want the questions answered of, you know what, in a big spot, who's going to get the basketball? Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, who? James Harden, who? People want to know. It's very disrespectful. And I'll tell you another thing. They're very unlikable. They really are. This team is very unlikable. Harden, okay. But listen, you could have knocks on any of these guys. James Harden forced his way out of Houston. They bent over backwards to make it work with him down in Houston, right? They would have done anything. They bring in Russell Westbrook. No, we don't want him. They run and gun. That doesn't work. We're going to shoot 1,000,000 threes. That doesn't work. We don't want that. They did everything within their power to make it work. And at the first sign of he's not happy with things, he's got to get dealt. So he gets dealt. I got Kyrie Irving, who I think it's pretty obvious, says a lot of things and acts a certain way that he's turned off a lot of people at this point. And now Kevin Durant with his burner accounts, oh, come on, it's enough. It really is, it's enough. And I'll tell you another thing. It's bad for the NBA. If this team, and I think they've played, 7 games together, the three of them, and they're phenomenal. They are nothing short of phenomenal. But if they go out and they run it up on Boston and hammer them and destroy Milwaukee and get the best of the Knicks, I said that tongue-in-cheek, get the best of Philadelphia in the Eastern Conference Finals and run their way to an NBA championship, is that good for basketball? Is it good for basketball if a team can, for lack of a better term, punt on the regular season and then just come out there and dominate in the postseason? So I think there's two sides of this right now. Either you like the Nets and you want to see them win, or you want to watch these guys play as much as humanly possible. That's I'd like to see the win side of things, or you have to root against them. Because I think it's bad for the game, and I think there's a real unlikability factor with these guys. But will they beat Boston? Please. If Boston wins a game in this series, it would be a shock. Will they beat Milwaukee? They're going to beat Milwaukee. Will they beat Philadelphia? They're going to beat Philadelphia. Their really, in my mind, only test would be the NBA Finals. They're great. They're just not likable. So have you heard this, that all of a sudden there's a huge rivalry with the Knicks and the Nets? Oh, it's huge, and New York is going to have to pick sides. It is the most inane, asinine, bullshit argument I've ever heard in my life. This is not a rivalry. If you walk down the streets of New York City and asked every 10 people, hey, Knicks or Nets, 9 of them, no, let me rephrase that. 8 of them would say Knicks. 1 of them would say Nets, and 1 of them would say, is the moon going to come out tonight? And they wouldn't even know what you're talking about when you're discussing the NBA. But this idea, listen, the star power is there with the Nets. They have so much star power. We've been through it a million times. They have a 3 that maybe we've never seen before. But what team owns the city? Come on. It's one of the dumbest questions I've ever heard. The Knicks now, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, will always own New York City. The Nets are a great story. They're fun to watch. They're immensely talented. But come on, it's a ridiculous question. And all the time I get asked, if the Knicks went around, and this is, I don't even know where this stems from, but this has now become, making the rounds in sports talk radio and podcasts around the world. If the Knicks win around, is it bigger than if the Nets win a championship? No. If the Nets win a championship, it's bigger than if the Knicks win around, but the Knicks are just bigger and better anyway. They have more fanfare. Look, when you go to Madison Square Garden, right? Now I know Jay-Z at Barclays and all that stuff. Think about the Garden. You got Ben Stiller. Ben Stiller is at every game at the Garden. John McEnroe is at all these games at the Garden. Spike Lee, when he can get into the Garden, is going to be there front row at Madison Square Garden. So it's a completely different feel. There's something very different about Madison Square Garden over the Barclays Center, isn't there? So stop with the comparison. If the Nets win a championship, that's bigger. It's bigger than if the Knicks win a round. But the Knicks are 50 times bigger than the Nets, and they always will be in this city. All right, let's look at the NBA postseason as a whole. Knicks, obviously, and the Hawks. That's the 4-5 matchup in the Eastern Conference. It's a flip of the coin. Here's the issue. Whoever wins that series is going to struggle mightily in the next series. Philadelphia really wins out here because they don't have to face Milwaukee, and they don't have to face Brooklyn until the Eastern Conference Finals. So you really like Philly to win their series, move on, probably win the second round as well. We got Philly standing there in the Eastern Conference Finals. Everyone says, oh, look out, Milwaukee, that's the team. I actually will sit here and give you this. I think there's a better chance that Miami beats Milwaukee. Now, digest this. I'll say it slowly for those of you that are not, all there mentally. I think that Miami has a better chance to beat Milwaukee than, in fact, I think Milwaukee has of beating the Brooklyn Nets. Milwaukee's not beating Brooklyn. They can't stop Brooklyn. Brooklyn can score 130 points in their sleep. So, I do like Milwaukee to beat that series, to win in that series, to beat Miami. But overall, I think they're won and they're done. And then Brooklyn wins. And then you have Brooklyn and Philadelphia in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I think we know that Brooklyn's going to go to the NBA Finals. Now, the West is very interesting, right? So you get the Lakers going up against Phoenix here. I mean, are you kidding me? Monty Williams must be like just waking up in the morning in a cold sweat. I win 51 games. And now I'm going to have to go up against the Lakers in the first round of the postseason. I think we all know who's going to win that series. If they're healthy, the Lakers will absolutely have their way with Phoenix. So now you have Utah at the top there. Utah will probably win in that opening round series, but then they're going to go up against the Clippers in Dallas. So if you're the Clippers and you're the 4, you can beat Utah. And in fact, they will beat Utah. And then it's going to come down to, and I don't think anybody will be surprised by this, a battle of LA. So nobody's going to have to travel at all. You're going to have the Clippers, the 4 seed, against the Lakers, the 7 seed. There you go. There's your parity in the NBA postseason, right? You got a 4 and a 7. It's like the NCAA tournament. But in actuality, it's the 2 teams. If you look at the Vegas lines that are the most favored to come out of the Western Conference, and that's what you'll see. You'll see LA against LA, and in the end, it's going to be the Lakers and the Nets in the NBA Finals. It is now time for everyone's favorite. We'll see how I do. It's Stump Rothenberg. Let's welcome in George.
It's a couple of weeks we've kind of gotten you, but you've gotten them right. So this one we're going to keep themed with the NBA.
Okay.
The postseason. You talked about the Knicks earlier in the podcast. We know you're a big Knicks guy. They haven't been in the playoffs since 2012, 2013 season. Can you give me game 1, 4 out of the 5 starters on that team? If you can give me all 5, that would be great, but I'm only asking for 4.
Okay. 2012, well, Carmelo Anthony. Mm-hmm. Now that, I believe game 1 was a Saturday night, and I was in Aruba. Okay. Shumpert.
Shumpert is 1, so that's 2 out of 5.
So that's Carmelo and Shumpert, and Kidd did not start. Okay. So who are the other starters? So now I need a center. I'm going to go with Tyson Chandler.
That will be 3.
Right. And then the 4th starter. So I need a point guard. So I probably need the point guard. Raymond Felton was my starting point guard in that game. All right, then there you go.
That's 4.
Raymond Felton.
The 5th one was Chris Copeland.
Chris Copeland.
Yes.
From the University of Colorado.
There you go.
Yeah. Right. All right. And the 4-part questions, George.
It's a tough one.
We're singular questions.
It's supposed to be one answer.
It's supposed to be one answer.
Okay.
All right, we'll do it again next week.
We'll do it again.
Thank you, George. A new addition to Stump Rothenberg. Tommy the intern. Welcome, Tommy.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, so the question I got for you is, Kyrie Irving recently joined the 50-40-90 club this current season. Who was the last NBA player to join the 50-40-90 club?
Oh, now Chris Paul was very close this season as well. Very close. The last 50-40-90, I'm going to say, coming out quickly here, and I might be wrong, Kevin Durant.
He was close this season. He was 5 free throws behind this season. You want the answer?
No. I want to continue along. Well, it's not this year then.
It was the 2018-2019 season was the last time.
Last time, 50-40-90. What's it going to be? I'm going to guess. I don't know it, and then you can give me the answer. J.J. Redick.
It was Malcolm Brogdon with the Milwaukee Bucks.
Oh, I did not know that. I did not know that. Good for you.
Thank you.
All right, well done.
All right, I got a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
So Sterling Shepard of the New York Giants, what college did he play for?
Oklahoma.
Okay. Going off of that, what colleges did the entire offensive line go to?
Oh, boy, I don't know how I'm going to get this. You want me to go from left to right? So we'll go Andrew Thomas, Georgia. We will go, I don't know who you consider the left guard. We'll say Will Hernandez, UTEP. I got to come back to the center, Gates. Right guard, we're going to go with Shane Lemieux, say Oregon. And right tackle is Pert, went to Connecticut. And then I guess let me come back to Gates, and I will go with, I think he went to Nebraska.
Correct, yes.
So I got them all.
You got them all, yeah.
All right, that's a winner.
Awesome.
Very good. Thank you. Next up, Stump Rothenberg, my friend. So take it easy on me, DJ.
Okay.
All right.
So, the Knicks and the Nets will hopefully meet in the playoffs this year.
You're very optimistic,
earlier.
but okay.
The last time they met was 2004. And one man in particular during that series, which the Nets swept, he led the whole series, both teams, in points, blocks, and rebounds. Can you name this player?
What is it? Blocks, rebounds, and what?
Blocks, rebounds, and points.
And points. So it's not Chris Dudley. Kenyon Martin.
There you go.
Okay.
There you
All
go.
right. Not
And where did he
terrible.
go to college?
Cincinnati.
There you go.
#1 pick. Didn't play in his senior year in the tournament because he broke his leg.
Okay.
There you go. So there you have it. We covered a lot today. We got into the Knicks. We got into the Nets. We got into Kyrie Irving. We got into Tom Thibodeau. We did story time with Rothenberg. We did Stump Rothenberg. We gave you NBA predictions. So that's a lot to chew on. So go chew on that. Take a Tums, and we'll do it again next week. It's Rothenberg Untucked.